Hello, all, and welcome to a special edition of Rambling Canuck Live. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed the new intro and the music wasn't too loud. I tried to lower it in the editor. If it came across and blew your eardrums out, my apologies. Although, if it blew your eardrums out, you can't hear me anyway, so it doesn't matter. Welcoming to the chat, Mrs. Canuck, as always. Welcome, my love. And Mark the Infly Tired, welcome, sir. So, today we have a gentleman that I just came aware of very recently when I went on Twitter one morning and happened to look through and I saw my name and went, oh God, what now? And so I saw a video and it said my thoughts on Rambling Canuck, and I went, oh boy, brace for impact. And so I grabbed the video and I threw it up and I'm like, okay. Just all right, here we go. Let's see how this goes. Normally when people make a video about me, this doesn't end well. All right, let's see how this goes. So, and it turned out to be very pleasant. And Mr. Athay here said many nice things to me, and no, I didn't pay him.
I wish you did.
He can confirm this. I did not pay him. But so once I saw that video and a couple other ones, I thought, what the hell? We'll have him on. We'll have a chat. Mr. Athay is in the UK, so he's for him it is very late. For us, it is not so late, but still evening. So I just thought I'd have you on, and we'd do a little chat. Yes, dear, I'm finally using what you call the actual black background. Yeah. What she's talking about is I used to use this one. And that's gray, apparently. And this is black. So, yes, I'm using the actual black one. But yes, so start off. His YouTube channel is in the chat at the pinned comment, and also my love put it in the chat as well. It is also on the ticker here. Do go take a look. You'll see videos that he made on myself, Zax, Adega Outlaw, a few other people. He's always very respectful in his opinions, from what I can gather. Why don't you just let us know a little bit about yourself, why you started YouTube, etc., and we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Roger Athay. I'm 22 years old. I'll be 23 in June. And I started a YouTube channel way back in 2015, although I didn't post a video until 2018. I didn't start first consistently creating videos until late 2020. Until early 2021. But as of this live stream, I have been making content consistently, day after day, for 5 months. I've gone from 37 subscribers to about 317, and I make videos on topics and people that I find interesting. Everyone is welcome, and I take suggestions from the audience as well, and you'll be credited for it in the video title. Anyway, I started making YouTube videos mainly because I was sick and tired of no longer being able to speak my mind. I finally had the courage, as it were, to speak up against something that I'd been annoyed at for many years as a teenager, even as a young child, 11, 12, that sort of thing. And yeah, I finally got some courage and spoke my mind, and it's been going well so far. Some of my videos have been shared by Tyrone Magnus and Dr. David Starkey, two great guys, and I hope they do well as content creators. I thank everyone in the chat for speaking your mind, and everyone watching on your computers or on your phones. I hope to be doing this for many more years to come. I'm quite young. I don't look it, but I am quite young. Yes. Born in 1999.
Yeah. I don't even remember what I was doing in '99, so you got me there.
Partying, because it
Well,
was the
no,
Millennium
'99.
Year.
Let me think. Let me think. '99. Oh, shite. 96. I was 12. So 3 years later, I was 15. Oh, I think I was in Ontario at that time.
Oh,
Wow. Yikes. Yeah. Either that or it was back in Winnipeg. I don't remember. But yeah, it was a while ago. But because I am a bastard, and you will find this
mm-hmm.
out, um, I have I was sneaky, and I have a video for you to play.
Ooh,
So here we
how
go.
interesting.
So without further ado, we shall play the video and then we shall discuss and go forward.
Okay.
So here you are.
Hey, Ryan. I wanted to be there to meet you in person today, live, or at least as in person as YouTube can get. I'm on my Tuesday live stream right now over on Salty Texas C's channel, so unfortunately I can't be there. But I wanted to thank you for all your kind words and your high rating and for checking out my channel. I really appreciate it. It's been a very crazy YouTube week for me, and I appreciate you putting the spotlight on me. Also, I've been checking out your channel, and you're making some great stuff over there. You know your shit. Great voice and great cadence. I kind of wish I could borrow that accent. And now I'm rambling, but I don't want to steal Canucks gimmick. And I feel like we're going to be on a live stream together sooner than later. So I'll meet you then. But thanks.
There we go.
That was very nice.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a sneaky bugger.
Well, I do my best with a budget of 0, so
yes, we talked about that a little bit. Full disclosure, we had about what was supposed to be a 5-minute meeting that turned into about a 2.5-hour yap.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, last week when I invited him on, and but yeah. So what do you dabble in the science fiction like Star Trek, Star Wars?
Yes.
Do you have any of the
Star Trek,
loves
Star Wars, Doctor Who. Oh, what were the others again? Mostly them. I talk about. I've been a science fiction fan since my youth. I remember first watching Doctor Who. 2005, 2006.
See, that's where you
favorite
have me at a
monsters.
disadvantage because I never could get into that show. Never. I don't
Oh.
know if it's just I caught a bad season or I caught a bad episode, but I could just never get into it. And I guess now I'm kind of going, whew, dodged a bullet.
Yes,
From what I hear from Doctor Who fans that I know, I dodged a bullet because apparently it's gone like the rest of programming down the toilet. So when you entered Star Trek, because there I can actually talk because I watched it. What was your Trek? Like, did you come in? I guess being younger, did you come in? I think you said Voyagers where you came in, right? Yeah.
I watched my first Star Trek was Star Trek Voyager on videotape. It was only the first season. It was when the Kazon were first introduced in season 1. That was way back in 2007, 2008. I didn't even have a DVD player back then. But then I managed to get all of Voyager a few years later. Loved it. And that's what got me into Star Trek. Then I watched Enterprise, which I quite liked, except for the Xindi arc, which I found a bit boring halfway through. And then the ending I thought was quite good. And then after Enterprise, I went into DS9, and I loved DS9 more than Voyager. Then I watched the original series films, and I quite liked those. and then the TNG films, which I quite liked at the time, but recently, especially with Insurrection, there are a lot of missed opportunities. That could have been a
Insurrection
Dominion.
was an
That could have
absolute
been.
travesty.
That could have been a Dominion War film
Mm-hmm.
with
Yeah.
DS9, TNG going up against the Dominion, the Sona, the Cardassians. Hell, bring in the Breen as well. That could have been massive, but it turned into a flop. And then I went to the original series, which I found to be a little corny, but very good for its time. Very good for its time.
Yeah.
And my golden age of Star Trek would have to be from 1987 until 2005. Star Trek since the 2008 with the new movies and then STD and then Picard, it's been a disaster, a walking disaster.
You weren't on the J.J. Abrams bandwagon? Why?
No, couldn't stand it. I could not stand that first film. And then I watched the second one.
You didn't like the Enterprise's things going out like this to go to warp? Because they were copying Voyager when it went up like this?
It's a joke. It was a rip-off, and they couldn't even rip it off properly.
No.
They split the universe into two, and they just confused it for new fans, which also caused a split in the fandom before political correctness and social justice and other forms of woke ideology just put the poison in that open wound. And you get that now with STD, which is its actual name, not Star Trek Discovery. It's an STD on Star Trek.
Well, the only problem with that, I would disagree with you there. It can't be an STD because none of the writers have ever had sex. Okay, moving on.
Yeah. And of course, Picard, I mean, I haven't watched a single episode. I've seen clips, bits and pieces, and it just looks so modern, current day. No positive vision of the future.
Ryan, you know, sometimes when you bring up Star Trek, just sometimes, you awaken a god. So, welcoming to the panel, Stone Loki.
Oh, so nice to meet you.
I can't believe I am with two absolute villains here. They're as bad as villainous as I am. I'm so sorry about the way I sound. I'm still
brother.
Getting my voice back. Ryan, a couple of months ago, you did a video on me, and I wanted to just tell you, it immediately made me smile. I was blown away. I was like, I can't believe someone did a review video about me. It was the craziest thing to me. I was like, I sent it to Mexican Iron Man. I was like, can you believe this? I can't believe this. Someone did a review video about me of all people. You have brought some heart and some distinction to this fellowship, sir. And
thank you.
I can't stay, but I wanted to tell you how much that meant to me, how much what you're doing means to all of us. And make sure you have an open invite anytime on Mornings of Mischief. Anytime you want to come by, you want to hang out for an hour, chill with us, you are more than welcome to. Thank you so much for your video. And anything you need, we're here for you, brother.
Okay, well, that's very kind of you. I just want to say before you leave, I made videos. Basically, I'm a content creator who talks about topics and people that I enjoy and other content creators who I like and enjoy, mainly because I have a budget of zero and I couldn't really afford snazzy graphics and putting on performances that you guys can do. So I thought, if I can't compete in that regard as a content creator, then I could branch off, do something unique, and despite my low budget, I'd be able to craft out a niche and compliment you guys because you're all rising stars. Anyone can be a content creator. If I can do this, everyone with an internet connection can, and a laptop and a camera, of course. But I just like to finish by saying thank you very much for being on the stream, Loki. I hope your voice gets better. Wondering where you were over the last few days. It was the voice. And hope you come back to Loki's Mornings of Mischief fully refreshed. I'd love to be on your YouTube show because I'd love talking about content creators, especially rising stars.
Well, that's what we'll do. I know you're on Twitter. We'll set something up for a Wednesday because that's usually when I talk YouTube.
Okay.
We'll set something up for a YouTube talk Wednesday, and we can talk about that. I'd love to have you on in the future. Thank you again for what you do. You're starting out just like all of us started out. I didn't have anything to spend on it either. I didn't have a schmancy computer. All that comes later. All of that will come later. It will come in time. I've told people before, if you can go live on your phone, go live on your phone. Use your earbuds, use your phone, whatever you can do. If this is what you want to do, do it. And that's exactly what you're doing, brother. You know, I couldn't afford this Nancy graphics. I had a quick little clip I played at the beginning of my first show that just said pop culture therapy. That's all it said. And we all start somewhere. We all start somewhere. And a lot of us don't have anything when we start. And you're going to get there, brother. I know you're going to get there because you're growing. You've got a wonderful voice. You've got a wonderful talent. And you're going to keep growing because that's what we do, brother. Thank you so much for being who you are. Thank you, Canuck, for letting me pop on here. Guys, have
anytime,
a great
Loki,
show.
and thank you so much, my friend.
Heck yeah, you guys have a great one.
You too,
and
brother.
you.
Thank you, brother.
I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that one bit. You got any more surprises?
I might be a sneaky bugger.
Surprises?
I might be. Hey, if it's going to be one of your first, live streams, I got to make it memorable somehow.
I got to tell you though, Canuck, we've learned another thing today. My systems can handle 2 guests.
Yes, we've learned this. Yes,
good.
System operational. Yes, although it does change when you're hosting.
Okay.
So you'll have to test that because hosting draws more of the bandwidth.
Well, personally, I see myself as a content creator rather than as a live streamer. Of course, I'll make guest appearances where I can. I'll be a guest on anybody's show, especially if they need guests, because my systems can't handle lots of guests, say like 5, 6, 7, like a Friday Night Tights, for example. But if it's 1, 2 people, basically, if you need a guest, DM me on Twitter, and that goes for all of you up-and-coming content creators. If you need a guest and you can't find anyone, contact me. I'll be there. I'll be your anchor. And we'll talk about stuff, whether it be politics, pop culture, content creation, topics and people. I'm an all-rounder. Gotta be when you have a budget of 0 and you don't have fancy graphics.
I think that's something that's not talked about a lot. When you're doing something and you're doing it on the cheap, as I like to say, and cheap usually means free. Free is a wonderful word, It is just a wonderful, wonderful word. You learn to be a lot more resourceful than if you have the money and you have all the gadgets and the gizmos. And I think when you get further ahead and you get the gadgets and gizmos, you're more appreciative of the gadgets and gizmos than if you just had them from the start, right? Because even with me, when I started live streaming, I had a headphone set. I still have it. It's absolute garbage. It was white and black. The microphone sounded absolutely brutal. It was one of those, it was just an open mic, so you could I could walk halfway across the house and you'd still hear me with the thing. With this one, it's more directional. So this is the newest upgrade that I've gotten. So it's USB and fancy dancy, and I can turn up my mic volume on my mic and all that fun stuff that I couldn't do before. And I had another boom mic, but with the new computer, it didn't work, so that
Mm.
annoyed me. So my love got me this one, so it's holding its own so far.
Good.
And cameras are the same thing. When I started, I had a garbage 1999 $19.99 bloody camera that was like, it narrowed you in. It was
Mm.
really bad. And then I finally got the wide end, but it's still not high end. It's 40
Mm.
bucks, right? But I you slowly build up, um you slowly build as you go, and you
Mm.
appreciate the new setup, and you appreciate the
Definitely.
new stuff, and you appreciate, like, oh, I remember when I had to do that with that. Oh, that was a nightmare. And then, oh, this is so much easier. Yay.
Mm.
um so you definitely learn, and then you also, it forces you to be creative,
Yep.
because you can't just pull a fancy graphic or
Mm.
something. You've got to be creative in how you do stuff, because you're really doing it on, like you said, on the cheap, right?
Mm.
So you know, with a budget of zero, you've got to be really creative. Like a friend of mine who I don't talk to as much as I used to, and I really should touch base with him. He does Star Trek fan films, and he's done them all on his cell phone, every single one
Really?
of them. Yeah, Vance
Oh.
Major. He's done hundreds of Star Trek fan films.
Let me just write that
And
down. Where's my pen?
I'll send you the link to his
Oh,
channel. It's No
all right.
Budget Productions. Literally, it's in the name, No Budget Productions. Because no budget. But
Mm.
you know, and some of his stuff is nice. Some of it you can tell, right?
Mm.
I've reviewed a few of his movies here on the channel over the years. You know, and it's always hard because he's a good friend, and I don't want to say anything that'll really annoy him. But you know, there are some times where I've gone, "What the was this?" You know, but you know, it's,
Well, you can appreciate it. You can
but you can
appreciate the
appreciate
fault.
it because
Mm.
you know, he does put his work into it,
Mm.
and um, it's just it's really interesting to see, and he writes all his own stuff, and you know, it's really cool to see his work come to progression. But I'll before you go, I'll send you on Twitter his channel, and you can
Okay.
overlook. But he's gotten like just a ton, and he's cool too. He'll come on your channel, he'll talk, he'll you know, he's really cool that way. He's not one of these people that hit, you know, 2,000 and then they don't talk to you unless you're, you know, 3,000 and above, right?
Well,
Which
I
we find a
prefer.
lot in this industry, but you know.
Well, I prefer everyone growing together, combining our, pooling our resources to the best of our limited abilities. And it's amazing when people subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely amazing. All these people who take time to watch your videos and support the channel in that way. Uh, these people, in my view, certainly friends, borderline family in a sense, because
Oh yeah,
they keep us going. They give us the
absolutely.
impetus to keep on going. And for me, there are peaks and there are troughs. There sometimes it goes up by 4 and goes down by 3 and then stagnates, but that's to be expected. But so long as everyone is consistent, if I'm consistent in making videos and if people are consistent in watching them, giving feedback, uh, fan interaction, as it were. That's why I like suggestion videos so much. I can't get
Yeah.
enough suggestions. If you have
Oh
one suggestion, great. If you have 10, equally better. And if it's
yeah,
on something I've already covered, then I'll try my damnedest to talk about it in a way that I haven't talked about it before. That's
yeah.
why I have my thoughts, and I also have my thoughts in detail. Longer
Hmm.
videos. So if
Yeah,
people want
longer
more
videos.
information,
Yeah.
and I have Rising Stars, of which you are one of them, and then I
Yes.
have of which
shocked
I
me. Like I said, I looked at Twitter and I saw my thoughts on Rambling Canuck and went, "Oh no, here we go."
and then I have
Viral response video.
and then I have rising stars who made it, and then I
Mhm.
talk about people. It was supposed to be talking about topics originally, but then I couldn't really find enough topics to talk about
Yeah, you run
consistently.
out. You run
Hmm.
out, and
But you
the
you
other
don't seem
thing,
to run out of people, though.
no, you never do.
Hmm.
And the other thing I always like. Well, one thing I get annoyed with as a content creator, especially when I was talking Star Trek or Star Wars or something,
Hmm.
you sit there and you go, okay, I'm just adding to a million other people who have talked about the exact same topic, right? Like, and then you try to put your own spin on it, but
Hmm.
that gets hard. You can only put so many things. You can only
Hmm.
spice up something so much before it just becomes redundant.
Yep.
Like I used to do the Picard review, TNG review.
Hmm.
I started on Enterprise because I never really got through Enterprise because,
Oh.
quite frankly, that first season bored me to tears. Um, but
Hmm.
and see, that's for me. That's usually the way I go. I watch the first season, and if the first season just does not
Hmm.
get me, then I don't care if they've made 18. I'm watching one season of this.
Well,
Um,
the first season of most Star Trek shows are usually the poorest. There are some bright sparks, but they're usually the poorest. In my view, if season 4 of Enterprise was season 1, they would have gotten off to a much better start, and they may not have been cancelled. I mean,
well,
season.
and
Hmm? Go
what's
on.
always puzzled me is that last episode of Enterprise divided the fandom so
Yeah.
much because there are people that hate that thing with a
Hmm.
passion, and then there are people that are like, "Yeah, it was all right."
Hmm.
Right? But you get that with everything. In
Hmm.
every, like, for me, I didn't mind the first season of Picard. Yes, there was stupid shit in there,
Hmm.
very stupid shit, like flowers that can attack ships. Piss off, right? But they're like, just piss off. Are you taking it? I've been watching enough people in Ireland and the UK and Australia to be able to say this. Are you taking a piss? What the fuck, right? Like, get real, okay? A bloody freaking orchid that can attack a ship. Get out of my fucking face.
Well,
Um,
it kind of reminded me of a sort of Mass Effect 1, but with Star Trek, like new Star Trek, painted all over it. It had a storyline very similar to the original Mass Effect, which is a
well,
great game.
it reminded me a little bit of a show, and I'm gonna space on the name of it because that's the way I do
Mm.
things. It got one season. Oh, my friend Cody is gonna kill me. This is his
Oh.
favorite show. Um, Anyway, we'll get back to it.
Mhm.
It was a sci-fi show. It got one season, and it was really good. And basically, it was Picard season one.
Oh.
Just aesthetic
Mm.
wise, it was Picard season one. Uh, yeah. Space lilies. Oh fuck. I mean, but like for Firefly, there we go. That's it.
Mm.
But it had a Firefly aspect to it.
Mm.
Season one. Um, but the like for me, there were certain parts of the series that really didn't bother me, but because I wasn't a big Voyager fan,
Mm.
I didn't care what they did to each other. I could care less. He was like a
Mm.
background character to me.
Yeah.
I
Mm.
didn't give two shits. I really don't. And that's just that was just me. I just didn't give two shits.
Mm.
And then the doctor they killed off, or scientist, whatever the hell he is. I didn't care about him either, because in TNG, that's the son of a bitch that wanted to kill Data,
Yeah.
so he can kiss my ass.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I hope they
Yeah.
roast him on a pike. I don't give a shit. I've been waiting since TNG for them to get their for that son of a bitch to get his comeuppance. I don't give a fuck if he dies. Right? So I didn't care that they killed that son of a bitch. So that didn't bother me all that much. Right. And then the other thing too is I kind of prepped myself, because as a TNG fan, because that's where I came into Trek, was TNG. So my first captain was Picard, not Kirk, Picard. And then I later went back and saw what Kirk was, and then it really helped that the TV station that they played the TNG replays on happened to have TOS right after. So you'd watch TNG and then you'd watch TOS. But I think they just needed to fill 2 hours. So that was the time slot. You'd have TNG and then you'd have TOS. Or it was the other way around. I can't remember. But anyway, both shows would be on. And then, so for me, I kind of prepped myself. I knew I wasn't getting the old Picard, because Stewart himself basically came out and said, nah, I ain't playing that again. He said it for years. So I knew if he was coming back, we were not getting Picard. We were going to get a spin-off of him, because reasons. Because
Yes,
Stewart,
very old and very apologetic.
right? Stewart is just Stewart. So, okay, I get it. Oh no, Stewart's got writing control. God help us. So now
Never give an actor writing control, because they're
no,
always going to.
especially like the amount of stuff they've done to bend over backwards for Stewart. Yikes. But I mean, for me, last season, if you would have asked me, should they have replaced Stewart? No, not if they're going to call him Picard. No, don't replace Stewart. But they could have had Stewart die in the first season.
Yeah.
And had Rios take over. They could have had Stewart for the first season.
As like a springboard.
But then they couldn't have called it Picard. They would have had to call it something else. But they could have had Stewart die in the first season and then have Rios take over as the lead actor. But of course, they made Picard a machine, so yay. Him and Data are now. Yeah. So Wonderbar, who has a set termination date. Fun. But I don't know. It's yeah, that would have been cool too there, Mark. A story of Riker post Enterprise.
Oh,
and
yes.
then maybe his retirement. That could be fun.
The Titan.
Yeah, the Titan, yeah. Which they debuted in, of all shows, Lower Decks.
Oh,
of all stupid shows, the Titan makes its debut in freaking Lower Decks. Oh, in all Star Trek, Picard would have been a good spot for the Titan to make its.
Yeah, as a retired ship that led by a retired Starfleet captain, leading a ship of leading a fleet of mothballed ships from Starfleet of the era that we're used to, end of the Dominion War, leading this fleet into battle against this other fleet to try and stop basically Star Trek's version of the Reapers from destroying the galaxy.
Yeah,
that would have been good.
Yeah, but the Titan, the ship that Trek fans have been waiting to see forever, makes its debut on Lower Decks.
That just tells you, ladies and gentlemen, that the people running Star Trek don't care about fans. They don't even care about making money. They care about using this franchise to fulfill their own agenda, and then once the franchise runs out of steam, they will chuck it away and find something else to parasite off of. Everything woke turns to shit.
Yes.
Quoting a famous orange man.
Not only that, but if you look at it, the problem I think we have in media now is the fans are not the driving force anymore. They used to be. They're not anymore. Fans of a show are not the driving force. Shareholders, stockholders, and boards are
And
what,
advertisers,
and
because
advertisers.
a lot of ad revenue goes into these failures. Because if
Yeah.
you got a bad rating in the past, a series of bad ratings, you got cancelled. Star Trek Discovery's ratings have been through the floor for years, and it's still getting more seasons than Enterprise. I mean, Enterprise compared to Discovery is like comparing TNG with Lower Decks. That's the difference of quality we're talking about. But it's ad revenue that
Yeah.
props these things up,
Well,
as
and
well
not only
as
that,
investment
streaming
from
services
outsiders.
and streaming services.
Mm,
Streaming services are another thing, because with a streaming service, they need content. Doesn't necessarily have to be good content. They just need content. So it's less about views and it's more about content. We need more content, because these streaming services are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and multiplying, and so you need more content. So whether the show is good or not is almost irrelevant these days. It's more, well, we need content. We need content. Doesn't need to be good content. We just need content. Just ask Netflix.
And I personally think, though, that the streaming bubble, if it gets so big, if there are so many streaming services out there, I think it's inevitable that it's going to burst, and
Oh, absolutely.
all of these companies, these streaming services, will lose money hand over fist. The bigger ones may survive. Netflix might survive, and Amazon Prime might survive. But most of them, especially the smaller ones, I think will die out when the streaming bubble does burst.
Yes. Give me 1 second. I have to be very rude and step up and change my thermometer, because I can't regulate my body heat. Hold on.
Okay, take your time by all means. Well, it's nice that all of you are on this stream. I hope you stick around. 22 years old. What? Well, I was just saying to chat that I'm 22 years old. I look twice my age, and I sound 3 times my age.
Life will do that to you. But Mark does bring up a good point. STD may have more seasons than Enterprise, but they're filming 10 to 12 episodes per season.
Very
so if
true.
you think about it, what our seasons used to be at the 20, 24, 28 episodes a season, one season of TNG is like 2 seasons of 2.5 seasons of, or even more than that, 2 seasons of regular Star Trek Discovery.
They pour so much money into that show, and it still looks like crap. I mean, did you see it? Oh, you haven't seen the 4th season of Discovery, but Stacey Abrams makes an appearance in it.
Yes, I've seen photos.
And she looks like she's some Imperial moth from Star Wars, like a progressive version of the Empire.
Well, if you really want to be honest, the problem is Star Trek was Star Trek. Back when I watched it, it was Star Trek. Star Trek had a very different visual look than Star Wars. As Disney has taken over, or CBS has really started pumping this up, it's slowly going so that you can't tell. If you didn't see like the markings on the ships and such, you could almost swear it was a Star Wars battle in the new Star Trek.
Because everything that was different, everything that had similarities in certain aspects but were unique in their own way, are being sort of merged together because of corporations trying to cut costs and trying to maximize profits on one side, while another side is trying to use these franchises to put across their politics. And it's destroying franchises that we've grown to love over the decades. I mean, Star Wars been around since 1977. Star Trek has been around since the early 1960s. And now they're being gutted. So, in my view, what we must do as content creators in videos and in comic books and if you can, low budget films, if you've got the resources, is to create a sort of counter to that and create an audience that will reject modernity in pop culture, and embrace what was good about Star Trek and Star Wars and Doctor Who and other pop culture franchises, but adapt them to combat, in a way, the very things that have been destroyed by Disney, by CBS, by the BBC, and many others.
Yeah, well, it's really weird because there's a trend that's going on now, that it's kind of funny because when I was growing up, right, so late '90s, you'd hear of a fan film or something, and it would look absolutely atrocious, like absolutely yikes. Even sometimes now it's yikes. And the stories were yikes and stuff like that to some degree. And then you would get, but now it's almost like the fan stuff has a better look and a better story than the stuff being put out by the actual IP, which is wrong.
It's because it comes from the heart.
Yeah.
It comes from the heart. Its foundation is to, in a sense, is to make pop culture great again. To twist an old quote. But it comes from the heart, and the budgets are getting better. Oh, hello again, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Yeah.
I can't find it. Oh, well, I can't find it. It's got to be in my room. But I was going to show off Bird of Prey 5's hat that he sent to me, and it says, "Make Klingons great again."
What they did to the Klingons, man, they gave them a full-on makeover, and they looked like orcs from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's just brutal.
I mean, what better example can you get of a group of people wanting to tear the soul out of something that people here in the chat watching love? Because I think most science fiction fans would really like, if not love, Star Trek and Star Wars in particular. There are others as well that are quite well liked, but those two in particular are, in my view, behemoths. But they're tearing the soul out of it. And it's very sad, but it gives us all the opportunity to create new stories. Some will be great, some will be good, some will be goddamn awful, but we'll all learn from our mistakes and create content from the heart. And if more people support it, viewership will go up, and hopefully more finances will be available to take these blood suckers, because that's what they are. They're blood suckers. They're sucking the life out of these franchises, for us to take them on, to beat them financially, and hopefully drive them all out of business. So that,
oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Basically, what I was going to say was the end goal is to stop these people and to make new franchises and to basically become the establishment in film and pop culture. Because the way our pop culture is going, it's going to cease to exist completely. It ceased to exist as we know it before, but they're going to take these franchises, drain them of all their life, chuck them away, and then find new ones if they can. And hopefully
old ones make them new again. Yeah.
But basically, we have to take the fight to them as creators, and hopefully their whole system falls like a deck of cards in a pyramid, as it were.
Yeah. Well, there's a weird paradigm as a wrestling fan that I remember when we used to look at Star Wars fandom or Star Trek fandom, as the beacon to where we wanted to be, because wrestling fans for a very long time have been given the middle finger by the wrestling establishment, WWE, WCW in the day, TNA, whatever. They've been given the middle finger for a very long time, right? Where they would absolutely complain about something and be told to shut up, or the company line would be, the people who complain the most are just internet, or are these virgins that have never left their mother's basement. That was something that came from the wrestling world. That's where that came from, was the wrestling world, because that's what we got called. Oh, the other one was Mark. You're a wrestling Mark. So basically fanboy. That's what a Mark is, a fanboy. To some degree. But for the longest time, we wanted to have the respect that the Star Wars fans had, that the Star Trek fans had. And what I've noticed over the years is, slowly but surely, instead of us getting to there, those fandoms are coming to us.
Everything's sinking like quicksand.
Right? Because Vince never gave a shit. He owned the marketplace for the longest time. AEW is there now, but let's be real, they're not anywhere near the market share of WWE, so they're not threatening Vince in any way. So, because Vince has a worldwide market share, AEW is popular in the United States.
Yeah.
Britain, there's some interest because the UK follows. There's a lot of the YouTube channels that follow wrestling are based in the UK. Imagine that. Like What Culture, their base is in Cultaholic, their base is in the UK.
North of England, I believe.
Yeah. So they're some of the bigger names, they're England, and then they team with the United States, the John Ross, the Ross Sapp. Heaven forbid I mention his name. The Observer. I don't think I have to say anything more than that. If you're a wrestling fan, and if you don't know, all the better to you. Yeah, we'll say that. But I had to laugh because when I was watching Star Trek Discovery at season 3, I once made a comment on a live stream, I think it was Loki's, where I said my question to the to CBS is, when the hell did they let Vince Russo start writing Star Trek? Because it makes about as much sense as a Vince Russo storyline. And if you're a wrestling fan, you know who Vince Russo is, and you know what he's responsible for. And I'm sorry, but some of this new stuff, I swear he's a ghostwriter for some of this shite, because it makes about as much sense as his crap. But yeah, I mean, Vince Russo gave us great matches like Judy Bagwell on a pole match.
It's like he only ever watches the highlights of wrestling. It's as if he's never seen a full wrestling show and only picks highlights and puts it all together in a show.
My favorite from him was, people don't turn into a wrestling show to see wrestling. They tune in for the stories. That's an exact quote from Vince Russo.
That's ridiculous.
People don't tune into wrestling shows to watch wrestling. They tune in for the stories.
That man is mental.
That is a quote from Vince Russo.
That is insane.
Yeah. I mean, the stories get you so far, but if the match quality sucks, your audience depletes really quick. You need both. You don't need one or the other. You can't have great matches and shitty stories either. You need both. And the storylines we remember, or the matches we remember, usually is when those two aspects come together. A great story and a good match.
And I've noticed in professional wrestling is that when you get it right, you always get it right. It's like you're high flying on a wave. We saw that with WCW from 96 until the middle of 98. They were riding a wave. I mean, certain venues, they were
late
selling out.
96.
But
Yeah.
then things started to change with corporate, and then they started to fall behind in early 99. And then once they started failing, they continued to fail, and they never recovered.
Yeah.
No thanks to Vince
quoted,
Russo
it's
in that
86
regard.
weeks. Yeah, it was 86 weeks that WCW was on top. And the reason you know that is because there's a podcast called 86 Weeks by
Yep.
Eric Bischoff. There you go, buddy. I want the check in the mail, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I don't think it works that way.
I really think, though, that had WCW kept their profits, if it wasn't for corporate interference, I think the Monday Night War would have gone on for many years longer. I do think that the WWE would have prevailed in the end, because WCW, even in 96, 97, were not pushing new talent, especially the cruiserweights. It was always the same faces winning. But had standards and practices and the merger, the company merger, not
AOL,
got in their way, it would have lasted many more years.
What they needed was Ted Turner to remain in control.
Yeah.
If Ted Turner had stayed in control of TBS, WCW would have stayed. But because Ted Turner lost power within his own company during the AOL merger, that's what killed WCW. Was because, one, they weren't doing the business they were doing in 98. And two, they were getting their balls cut off at every chance they could. They couldn't compete with the WWE because they couldn't do half the shit the WWE could do. The WWE could have Sable come out in like a handprint freaking bikini on, Monday Night Raw. And if they tried to do that on WCW, they'd get their asses kicked and then, told, if you ever do that again, we're pulling you off our network. So
I just want to add one thing. You can actually tell, ladies and gentlemen, when WCW started to collapse, when they changed their emblem. I think it was either in February or March of 99, from that great WCW Monday Nitro emblem to that god-awful corporate. I bet they had a focus group meeting to decide that. I mean, it looked like a cat's ass.
Yeah, it was nasty. Yeah, it was nasty. It was terrible. Yeah. But WCW would have still been around if one, Turner had stayed in power. If Turner had stayed in power, TBS would have stayed. The problem was it just fizzled out because the wrong people got for some reason they thought that Russo could write. I don't.
I personally think. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I personally think that they didn't want wrestling, so that the corporate that took over that merged,
no, they didn't.
They didn't want wrestling. They wanted someone to kill it as fast as possible. They looked at the WWE. Who's the worst writer there we can hire? Okay, come in, Ed Ferrara. Oh, and bring in your mate Vince Russo as well. Come down to Atlanta. We'll give you loads of money. Just come on down and ruin everything for us.
well, see, what the people didn't understand was, yes, Vince Russo was around for a lot of the high spots in WWE. But Vince Russo on his own is dreadful.
Yeah.
Vince Russo with a Vince McMahon filter was what worked. Because Vince could go, no, we're doing it this way. Well, that's an interesting idea, but we're going to tweak it. Right?
His arguments with Jim Cornette, I would have loved to have been a fly in that room with Vince McMahon, Vince Russo, and Jim Cornette just arguing amongst each other, because Vince was like the middleman.
I don't think that one happened. It wasn't Vince. No, because by the time Russo, I don't think Russo and Cornette were in the same writing team until TNA.
Oh, right.
So it would, because Cornette, no, Cornette wouldn't have been in. Cornette was in the WWE
Hmm.
when Russo was,
Yes.
but I don't think Cornette was in the writing team.
Oh, right.
Because by that time he had started OVW and
Hmm.
that. So I don't think, I could be wrong. Don't quote
Hmm.
me, but I could be wrong. I think you're thinking of Vince Russo, Eric Bischoff, and
Hmm.
Jim Cornette.
Hmm.
And then it
Well,
would
it was
be,
both a disaster.
oh
TNA
yeah,
was a
absolutely.
walking disaster. And Mark, the Infinitely Tired, makes a good point about Hogan, Nash, the New World Order. They become this great success, and they're practically holding this company by the balls, as it were.
Well, you know what? The NWO would have been a really good idea. It was
Hmm.
a good idea. Tip the hat. It was a great idea. Turning Hogan heel, that was amazing. That made records. Like
Hmm.
that broke records for shit. The problem with it is they added 50,000 people to the fucking thing. It was great when it was Hogan, Nash,
Hmm.
and Hall.
Yeah,
Maybe
sadly.
add one or two more
Hmm.
people, but that's it.
Well,
Right? That's
it's
where
sad
that
that
stops.
it's sad that Scott Hall is no longer
Yes.
with us.
The
I
bad guy.
paid tribute to him and gone but not forgotten. He was a great
Yes.
wrestler, had
Yes, he
many
was.
demons, but he came through, thanks in part as a result of the WWE paying for his rehab and as a result of Diamond Dallas Page, a great wrestler, in my view, and a great person. But yeah, the New World Order was a great idea. The WCW's greatest success that formed the foundation for what would become their greatest failure with NWO Monday Nitro. Because
Mhm.
I think the plan was to replace Thunder with Nitro and then have the New World Order sort of take over Monday nights. But it fell through the floor, as far as I'm aware.
Bischoff has said that in the
Mm,
recent years. Bischoff has
mm,
said the original plan was you were gonna have an NWO show and a
mm,
WCW show. Um, I don't know if that's just hindsight, well, this is
mm,
why, an excuse, right? Or if it was true that he was really going to separate the two. Um So you'd have an all NWO show and an all
mm,
WCW show. That's something that Eric Bischoff has said in the recent
mm,
years, but I tend to go, okay, I'm with you, but how much salt is there in that?
mm.
And how much of that was an actual plan, my friend? Or was that just an idea and now it's convenient to say, well, that's why we
Yeah,
added
I can
50,000 people
understand
to it,
that.
right? Whereas maybe it was an idea, but how much were you really putting money in this idea and how much of it was just, oh, well, that's a convenient thing to bring up because we did have that
Mm,
conversation back in 96, right? So to me, it's questionable, but yes, that is
mm,
something Bischoff has been saying for
mm,
the last little while. And Mark brings up a good point. The term vanilla midget ran off the upper mid card from WCW. Yes, you're talking about when Dean Malenko,
Malenko, yeah.
Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero,
Mm,
and one more because he didn't do as well. Saturn left. Uh, Breaking point was when Tony Schiavone announced Mick Foley won the was he didn't announce that he won the title. He
mm.
announced that the main event of WWF show was going to be Mick Foley winning the title. So he hadn't
Oh.
done it yet. So because WWE was taped
Mm,
portion of it. So the results were known. So they'd leak it once in a while. Well, this time they leaked the main event, which was Mick Foley winning the title. Well, if you look at the ratings, when Tony Schiavone mentions this, there's a major drop from WCW and a major uptick in WWE because everybody switched channels from WCW over to WWF to see Mick Foley win the freaking title. And the funny part was Eric Bischoff was the one who told him to do it.
Oh, God. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, just because a tactic works once, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't mean it works all the time, especially in a business that is constantly changing. And you can't get any breaks in wrestling. It's day to day. So the more you succeed, you succeed. The more you fail, you fail.
And, you know, this is just coming from a mark,
Mhm.
but I think the worst thing any wrestling company can do is bringing up its competitor. If you're not doing something with that industry, like if you're not teaming up with New Japan or you're not teaming up with the WWE, your wrestlers, your commentators, you yourself as the head promoter should not ever bring up your competition on live air ever. WWE does it wonderfully. They never bring up any of them. They don't bring up Impact. They don't bring up New Japan. If they talk about matches that happened before, they don't even mention where they happened. They just said in their past they have had bangers. Not in WWE, they haven't. But they don't mention where. They don't mention the other channel. Why? Because then you're going to go, oh,
Who's
New
this?
Japan. I've never heard of them. I'm going to go look them up now.
Mm.
Right? You don't mention your competition because then you're going to spike in interest in your competition. And that's one failing AEW has right now is every 5 minutes they're bringing up WWE.
I think it's because most of its fan base is an alliance of older and younger viewers and people who go to the events who despise WWE. These are people who supported WCW. These are people, if they're old enough, who supported the territories. Then WCW, then TNA, and then later it became Impact. These are made up of people who despise WWE. Tony Khan, a lot of money, mainly from his father, who sees this, doesn't like WWE's form of wrestling. So he takes advantage of that, sees this fan base and tries to develop a company around it. Now, I was actually quite shocked when Cody Rhodes decided to leave and go back to WWE, as far as I'm aware.
I wasn't shocked at all.
Well, I think he's going to get humiliated. I really do.
Know it for a fact. If you look at the history of superstars transferring over, look at what happened when WCW fell. Look what they did to DDP.
Yep.
He had that stalker storyline. Oh my gosh. Oh, that was brutal. Oh, that was terrible.
He was made by WCW.
Yeah, he was a WCW boy. Yeah.
So of course they had to punish him.
although I think what's going to happen with Cody is he's going to come off strong out of the gate, and then he'll slowly slide back down.
Oh.
And the reason for that is WWE will probably book him strong out of the gate, so that, you know, if other wrestlers like an MJF or a top star is looking over at WWE, Tony can't say, well, look what they did to Rhodes. Right?
Trying to bait them in.
Yeah. We'll treat you good. We'll treat you good. We promise. Right?
If MJF, I just want to say this, if MJF goes over to WWE, he is going to get his ass handed to him because he was a towel boy for Samoa Joe way back when. And they're going to show that to try and humiliate him because he in particular lives his character. And I've always admired it about him, that he lives his character. And if he goes over to there, I personally think it will be a great mistake to his career. Because
it could be. It depends. And it depends on this, and it depends on this alone. Does Vince like him?
Oh, well,
If Vince
I don't have
likes
any
him, like if he
information on
comes
that.
out and Vince goes, I like him,
Mm,
right? Then it doesn't matter what's happened in the past.
mm,
It doesn't freaking matter. Vince will push that son of a bitch to the
mm.
moon. If
Well,
Vince likes
well,
him, and
mm,
that's the key. Vince has
mm.
to like him. If Vince
Well,
doesn't like him,
mhm,
get the shovel, boys.
mm.
Right?
Well,
But
traditionally, Vince, in my view, likes big, strong guys, Hulk Hogan types,
yeah,
Undertaker types, Triple H types, even if they're roided up. You mean, see his forehead? It's bigger than mine, folks. And I tell you, I don't take any of those things. But MJF doesn't come off as someone like that.
no,
He's
no,
much
he's
thinner.
more. You know who MJF kind of reminds me body wise, not
Hmm.
attitude wise, but body wise.
Hmm.
Do you remember Alberto Del Rio?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Alberto Del Rio and MJF. Their
Oh.
body types are similar. Not their
Hmm.
work in the ring, not their attitude, but their body types are similar. And to be fair, Vince did push Alberto
Mm.
hard until Alberto fucked up. But that's
Yeah.
another story for another day. And don't
Yep.
look up Alberto anytime soon because boy, did
He's a
that man
crook
jump the
now.
shark.
As far as I'm aware, he's a crook.
He jumped the shark. Or the shark jumped him. One of the two, but yeah, yikes. That's stay away from territory.
Mm,
Um, but it just dumbfounds me how like wrestling Twitter
mm,
drives me bonkers because I will read something and go, "Are you fucking stupid?" One person a little while ago, well, they were taught there was a Twitter post about Rock versus Austin and how great it
mhm,
was, and they were like, well, because the rumor came out that Austin was coming to WrestleMania again, which
mm.
he is. But
Okay.
the rumor came out that he was going, and they were like, "We need to see Rock versus Austin 3."
Why?
Hold the phone. That's already happened. The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin have faced each other at WrestleMania a grand total of 3 times.
Mm,
Go back in the freaking catalog and watch it. You don't need a new match, you dumb. Um,
Well, I
or
think it's best. I think it's best if you bring back a legend. He comes out strong, and then a
Mhm.
rising star meets the challenge at WrestleMania, gets his ass handed to him in the first half, then comes back strong. We saw this with Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan. We saw this with Hulk Hogan versus Shawn Michaels to an extent, although I think Michaels overplayed that. But
He
that's the kind of thing, yeah. That's the kind of thing you do. You do not damage the reputation of the legend. You make him strong from the get go, but it has to
well,
be believable as well.
you know why the Shawn Michaels did that, right?
Mm,
It's come out in interviews. Um, Shawn Michaels oversold for Hogan because
mm.
they were supposed to have a trio, 3 different matches,
Oh,
and Shawn was supposed to go over
oh.
in a couple of them, and then Hogan do the big win, right? The blow off.
Mm,
And then Hogan went, that doesn't work for me, brother. And it went down to 1 match and Hogan was going over. So Shawn was pissed because he was supposed to
mm,
get a win. And then that went, it doesn't work for me, brother.
mm.
And it got narrowed down to 1 match and
So
Shawn
he took the
losing.
piss, basically.
So he took the piss, yeah.
Mm, that sounds like him.
So yeah, that's why Shawn did that. But yeah, he bounced around like a rubber ball in the ring. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. But wrestling today is so crazy because you'll get like the comments on some things just blow my mind at the stupidity of it. I haven't watched WWE in 5 years. Their stuff is crap. How come if you haven't watched WWE in 5 years, why are you
mm,
still commenting on their posts, you
mm,
stupid dumb fi? And how can you say Raw is crap when you haven't watched in 5 years?
mm.
If you haven't watched the product, how can you comment on the product? Either A, you're jumping on a bandwagon and have no idea what you're talking about, or B, you do watch the thing and you're just saying what's popular.
Just want to say thanks for watching, Mark. I really appreciate it.
Good to see you in the chat there, Mark, and you're one of my strong and powerful mods that show up on a regular basis, and I greatly appreciate you for putting up with me. He also puts up with recording with me, which makes him a saint, because I'm never consistent, and I usually tell them what they're talking about a half an hour beforehand. So tip the hat to Mark, because recording with me.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. I hope he goes far. Yeah. I don't know if I've made a Rising Star video about him. I'd have to check.
Well, he's a rising star in the mod world. He knows his mod stuff, and he also goes on with my dear on her channel, Mary's Game Room, and stuff. So he's around, and I know he sacrificed himself during Mary's charity. He shaved his head for it, got electrocuted for it, did a couple other things, painted his nails. You know, he sacrificed his pride for Mary's Game Room. So he's a good lad, and he can take a joke once in a while. But more about, we've talked about wrestling and everything else under the sun, and I really wanted to get to know you more. So let's reshift the course here. And so, whereabouts are you? What's your interests other than YouTube and us crazy people who are on it? Mary says, let's be clear. Mark did not get electrocuted because I fucked it up. Because I effed it up. Oh, you did good, dear. You did good. Mark says, I have very little content. I'm a mod on several channels. Well, you don't give yourself enough credit, my lad. You do an excellent job, and you show up to work, as it were, on time, and you always try to be at as many streams, and you record with me, which you should get a medal for, because like I said, sometimes there'll be a big, conversation we're supposed to have, and they'll find out what the topic is about a half an hour before record time. And it'll be something crazy like Normandy. So, like topic's Normandy, you've got a half an hour. What? Stuff like that. And Mary says his content is on my channel. LOL. Yes. Yeah. The Mary and Mark can definitely bring out the popcorn when they get arguing. It's quite fun. You can bring out the popcorn and sit back and just enjoy the fireworks. It's quite good. But turning more towards you, what are your interests other than us crazy people on YouTube and the fandoms that we're in? But what are your other interests, and what do you like to do, as it were?
Well, I had to grow up fast when I was young, so my greatest interest was actually politics as a kid, way back when I was 8 years old, I believe. Got involved in politics, spoke out for certain politicians and against others. I know it's a boring subject, but over the course of my late childhood and teenage years, I've been everywhere in the political spectrum: center, left, right, far right. I've dabbled in all of it. So,
I hate to cut you off, but I'm gonna, I don't want to brush over this part, because unlike our American friends, our politics can be really, like, ours is messed up, and I know yours is just right belly fucked. Yeah. To put it sideways, where the Americans only have they really have two parties to worry about. How many parties are in the United Kingdom?
Major ones?
Yeah, majors.
Two major ones. Minor parties nationally, there are plenty. There are the Liberals in the centre. There are the separatists in Wales and Scotland.
Yeah.
And Ireland, but they don't show up in the Parliament because they don't swear an oath of loyalty to the Queen. And there are plenty of smaller parties across the UK that to the right of the Conservatives, and there's also the Green Party that has a
Yeah,
lot
but
of
then
support, but
on your ballot, it's not just two parties.
no,
There are
it's
many,
plenty. It's
many.
national parties and local parties.
Yeah. So you'll on your ballots, you'll have like 5 to 10 names
Hmm.
that you've got to figure out.
Hmm.
Um, so when he says he's involved in politics, it's really different. And I think that's something that you might want to do on your channel is maybe
Okay.
not so much go into who's right and who's wrong, but maybe
Hmm.
explain the the process and how it
Okay.
works.
Hmm.
And because I think that could be interesting. I'm just
Okay.
giving you an idea there because
Hmm.
it could be interesting because you got to like even here in Canada,
Hmm.
we only have three major parties. I mean, there's the fourth recognized national party, but they don't count. They're the freaking Bloc
The
Québécois.
separatists.
They
Yeah,
don't
the
count.
separatists.
Yeah, they have no chance of getting the prime ministership. The
Hmm.
most they can do is be the party holding up the prime minister.
Yeah.
That's about as best as they can hope
Coalition
for.
partner. Hmm.
Yeah, that's the best they can hope for. They're never get because they can only be voted for in Quebec, which I
Like
think
the
is the dumbest
SNP
thing
in
in the world
Scotland.
for a national party. They can
Hmm.
only be they're a national party, but they can
Hmm.
only be voted for in Quebec. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But anyway,
Hmm.
before I get on a rant that'll get me canceled, um,
Well,
I really do think that could be
hmm.
interesting because a lot of like our viewers are from
Hmm.
the States
Yes.
and around the world, we do have that kind of reach if we, get lucky enough. You know, and you know, people get used to their way of doing things.
Hmm.
And maybe being able, well, we think ours is a freaking nightmare. What the
Hmm.
fuck is that gibberish? Right? Maybe it
Hmm.
might be a good thing. It could be very educational for people.
Oh yeah.
They don't it doesn't have to go into long detail, but I think that might be something and you're interested in it, so it'd
Oh
be a
yeah.
bonus.
Well, you
But
see,
yeah,
the thing about British politics is that it has been in turmoil since the coalition government of 2010. Before that, it was stable. You either got Labour on the left and the Conservatives on the right. No coalitions for decades. Only during times of crises like the Second World War or during the 70s when the economy was collapsing. But recently, you've had parties rise and fall, most notably UKIP from 2014 to about 2017. They rose up to be a major third party and they pressured the Conservatives to hold the referendum, of which the Brexit referendum, which they won, which UKIP led and won with the DUP, the Irish Unionists who support Britain. And after that was achieved, UKIP sort of collapsed in on itself because it was a one issue party. It was a
yeah,
pressure group. It was a
yeah,
pressure group pretending to be a political party. And
yeah.
it
So
got
once they got
13%
their
of the
goal
national vote.
achieved, it kind
Hmm?
of went, well, now what the heck do we bitch about?
Yeah.
The
Hmm.
sky is blue.
Hmm. And
Yeah, yeah,
then
okay, I can see that.
and then once it collapsed, Canuck, the Conservatives tried to keep us in the EU by the back door with a deal. So
Mm,
the former UKIP leader, Nigel Farage, Mr. Brexit as he's known in the States, saw UKIP destroying itself and decided to make his own party, the Brexit Party. Uh, Challenged the European elections. They won it quite well, defeating the Conservatives. And then they pressured the Conservatives to get rid of Theresa May, who was Prime Minister at the time, and bring in Boris Johnson. And they did a sort of deal with the Conservatives, the Brexit Party, to stand down in conservative areas so that the vote wouldn't be divided and Labour could get in and support going back into the EU. And that's why Boris Johnson had such a massive majority
mm.
um, to get Brexit done, as it were. And he did get Brexit done, and I supported that. But once that was done, just like the Conservatives do in the UK all the time, they take a piece of your policy, make it their own, and once it's done, they throw you under the bus. And we've
Yeah.
seen that, and we've seen that with lockdowns. Let me tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, especially you American viewers as well, and to a certain extent Canadian viewers. The British Conservative Party is not conservative. It pretends to be conservative, but in reality, it is a center party that will do whatever it takes to survive, even if it means taking Labour policies, left-wing policies, and making them their own. They are completely unprincipled. Hopefully, people will see that as a result of lockdowns and restrictions and such, that Boris Johnson is not a good prime minister. And hopefully, what is now Reform UK, which they turned the Brexit Party into Reform UK, will get more and more votes and try to do another UKIP in the next election, which I believe is in late 2024 or mid 2024, sorry. But if they do that, it could lead to Labour getting into power because they split the vote, divide and conquer, as it were.
Yes.
And
It's the same principle. It's the same principle here. Realistically, a prime minister, for a party to become prime minister, they need a strong, they don't need to win it, but they need a strong turnout in Alberta. They need a very strong turnout in Ontario, and they need a strong turnout in Quebec for them to win the prime ministership. So Manitoba, Saskatchewan, BC, and the rest of the provinces really don't play in big time. It's Alberta, Ontario, Quebec. Those are your big powerhouses when it comes to the election because of population.
Yes.
So what ends up happening is the Bloc Québécois divide the vote in Quebec. So you have to like neuter the Bloc Québécois to get in, which the Liberals do so well. Because a lot of times what they'll do is their running person will be born in Quebec. Jean Chrétien, Pierre Trudeau, Trudeau's Jr., Montreal riding, right? Quebec. So they get the Quebec vote. Then they need Ontario. So they give a whole bunch of money to Ontario. And then Alberta, they try to make happy. They never succeed because Alberta is strictly a blue state.
They kick Alberta. They punish Alberta for being a conservative stronghold.
Yes.
While they ignore the rest of the country,
pretty much.
They take on the separatists in Quebec and keep them from trying to rise and take Quebec or try to take Quebec again. They pay off the state of Ontario or the province of Ontario.
Yeah.
And then they throw Alberta under the bus.
They do. They do.
So that's why I think.
And the funny part is if the biggest argument right now is between Alberta and Quebec. Because the only reason that Quebec is above sea level as financially is because Alberta's been paying their bills for the last 10 years.
I actually heard from a previous stream, I think you were talking to another guest, talking about how Quebec was in serious debt. And in an effort to stop the separatists taking Quebec and making it independent, I think it was the prime minister at the time just threatened to give them all the responsibility, pull out the military, pay us back our debts if you leave.
Your provincial debt, which is astronomical. It's an astronomical amount because in Canada they have something that basically, if one province is doing better, they share their wealth with provinces that aren't doing well, right? So Manitoba isn't shall we say, not guilty. I think we get about $2,000, like 2,000. We get a small amount of money from the federal government as to bring us up to level. But that's mainly because we sell hydro, which is a major export, and we sell it to the States. So yay. So we get, pretty much our money isn't based on trees, which is Ontario. The forestry industry has taken such a bloody boot to the balls that it almost tanked Ontario. But Alberta has the oil sands and the oil fields.
So Alberta
So
is really the engine of Canada.
yeah,
Without that strong conservative state, the rest of the well, I say the rest
well,
of the
I
country.
couldn't say that because
Hmm.
they're a strong financial powerhouse,
Hmm.
but Quebec, Manitoba, a few other
Hmm.
provinces, they have things like electric. Like Quebec
Oh,
and Manitoba are the major exports of electric. So, like a little while ago, Quebec and Manitoba were competing for the New York contract
no.
to give power to New York. I think Quebec has it right now. I'm not
Hmm.
100% sure. I haven't checked lately,
I
but
think it would
last
make
I
more
heard,
sense
Quebec
if
had
Quebec had control over that
it. Yeah.
because of the
So
geography.
yeah. So but so what ends up happening is, and it's population based, a lot of
Hmm.
it. So Quebec has a high population. So does Ontario. Just look at the size of Toronto.
Hmm.
Um, Everybody thinks the world revolves around fucking Toronto. A bunch of
Yeah,
bastards.
Canada's Los Angeles.
And pretty much, they
Yeah.
are the most American city we have.
No.
Um, but and then you have, of course, beautiful Vancouver. Vancouver is
Oh.
amazingly beautiful. I haven't been there, but I've seen video and pictures and stuff, and it's just amazing. I'd love to be there one day. It's just absolutely beautiful. The West Coast is just amazing, and the Rockies are another amazing thing. But on the problem with Alberta is
Hmm.
oil is slowly becoming the
Irrelevant.
irrelevant, and not only that, but it's becoming the no thing,
Hmm.
right?
To
Bad
weaken the
oil,
power
big
of the
bad
province.
oil.
Hmm.
So you get provinces like Manitoba where
Hmm.
we're bringing it. Like if you go to Emerson, which is right near the border of the Canada and the United States, when you cross the border, the first thing you're going to find is a windmill farm.
Oh.
That's the first thing you're going to see is this big freaking windmill farm. And it
Well,
stretches from Morden all the way to Emerson.
and
It's
is
just
it an open border?
kind of, yeah.
Because when I see the Canada United States border, and then I compare it to the U.S. Mexico border, it's quite stunning example of different immigration policies.
Yeah, like traditionally,
Mm.
um, Canada and the United States have the largest undefended border in the world.
Mm.
Um, I mean, we have checkpoints right
Mm-hmm.
at the border, so you have to get cleared through the U.S. checkpoint, and you get cleared through the Canadian customs, and then you get in, or the vice
Mm.
versa. You go through the Canadian customs, then you go through the American customs, and then
Mm.
you get in. And like I used to laugh when I watched Canadian customs shows where they'd show the custom officers,
Mm.
and it always amazed me, like the small differences, like the American who's driving up, for a summer retreat or something, just to drive through or whatever to go to Alaska and doesn't realize that the 45 he has underneath his seat is highly illegal up here.
Mm.
Right? Like little things like that, you know. But
Mm.
it's just, the differences between the two
Mm.
are they're they're small,
Mm.
but in a way they're large.
Mm.
So yeah, it's just interesting to see. But no, I mean our borders, I mean for the most part, they're easy to get through. Not so much anymore, but back in the day,
Mm.
they were pretty good to get through, or so I'm told. I've never done it, but they were pretty well done. The only time I
Well,
did go, I got pissed off because I got a prick of a fucking U.S. guard and I wanted to knock him out. But that was besides. Oh, it pissed me right off. So my father at the time had to
mm.
be about 72. Yeah, about 72.
How far
And
back are we talking?
this is back when I was 17,
Ooh.
18, 17, 18.
So
So it was the
early
one and
2000s.
only, yeah, it was the one and only time. It's pre 9/11.
Okay.
So it was the one and only time that I had tried to cross the state's border. And my dad grew up in this small town in southern Manitoba called Darlingford.
Mm.
At that time, when he was growing up, it was a farming town. Now it's a ghost town. They've even removed the bank. Okay, that's how small of a town this is now. They've taken the bank out of there. Or at least when my dad and I went through, it was a ghost town. Like dad was almost disheartened at what happened to his hometown. So then of course, we went down to the grave where he now is, the grave site that he now is in. But he wanted to visit his parents. So of course, being the good son that I am, yes, dad, we went down there. And then as we're pulling out, dad goes, you know what? Down the road, just past the border, there used to be a dance hall. And I used to go there every Saturday. I want to see if it's still standing. Well, being again the good son that I am, yes, dad. I hadn't prepared to go across the border, none of that. But dad wants to go, dad's going. So we get down there, get to the Canadian border check, tell him what's going on. They're like, yeah, okay, have fun. I'm like, I'll probably see you because dad says it's 20 minutes across the border. So we're only stopping for a coffee and to see if a building's still standing, and we'll probably be back by dinner time. And the guy's like, okay, have a good trip. Yeah. So we get to the American border. Oh my fucking God. Get to the American border. I tell the American border guard, okay, this is what we're doing, yada, yada, yada. Well, fuck me. How much money do you have in your account? Okay, well, I just got paid $500. Okay, cool. Where are you staying for the night? We're not staying for the night. We're going over, we're checking to see if a building is still standing, and then we're coming back.
Oh. Oh
What
my.
what's the town called? I don't know. It was back in the 30s. He doesn't remember the name of the town. I'm sorry. It's across the border, 20 minutes that way. Right?
Oh.
So I'm going nuts trying to explain this to this guard. And then eventually he says, I need everybody out of the car because I guess he thinks we're doing a drug drop or some fucking shit.
Yeah.
So he's got to
Very
search the car.
suspicious.
Well, fuck me. So I, being the, cautious person I am, I tell him I'm popping the trunk. And he goes, why are you popping the trunk? Because I have to get this my father's walker out of the trunk if you want him out of this car. Oh, okay. So I pop the trunk, I get out, and he follows me and he watches me grab my dad's walker out of the fucking car. I get around to my dad's, I help my dad, 72-year-old man, has to get out of the fucking car and stand there like a schlub. Well, this fucking idiot goes through my car. So then this fucking guy comes at me like in a big aha moment, like he's caught something, right? Fuck me. It was a Stuff magazine. I just bought it 2 weeks ago. It's a fucking swimsuit edition, right? Motherfucker, it's printed in the United States. So the cocksucker comes up to me and he says, I'm sorry, but I'm not allowed to allow this pornography to cross into the border. Motherfucker, it's a swimsuit edition. Fuck you. It's a swimsuit edition with Harley Davidson's Kiss My Ass, right? So now I'm mad, right? I'm just fucking fuming because it's like, fuck you, right? What, are you disappointed there was no drugs in the car? So your best fucking thing you've got is you're going to have to confiscate my fucking Stuff magazine, you cocksucker? Whatever, fine, fuck it. So I'm like, okay, fine, I don't care. Burn the magazine. I'll buy a new one when I get back across the border. I don't care. I'm just doing this for my dad. I don't care. They denied my dad across the border because he couldn't tell him what fucking town he was going to.
What?
Yeah, they wouldn't let him across because we couldn't tell him what our accommodations were, and we couldn't tell him the exact name of the town. So I had to turn around after my dad standing out of the car for a half an hour at 70 fucking 2 with his walker out in the wind, and we had to turn around. So I get back to the Canadian border, and I'm like, oh my fucking God. So the same border guard's there. Funniest shit has ever happened in my life. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm fuming. I'm mad. I'm angry. And this guy goes, well, I was quick. I says, yeah, they wouldn't let us across. And he, of course, well, why? I says, well, my dad couldn't remember the name of the town. It was in like 37. So, oops, bad memory. And then he goes, oh, okay, well, no problem. And I says, but you might want to confiscate this because he seemed to have a problem with it. And I flashed the Stuff magazine. He says, hold. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm not going to be allowed back into my own fucking country. I'm sitting there at the border. I'm like, fuck, me and my big mouth has now got me so I can't even enter my own fucking country. He goes back
Just stuck on the border.
Right? He comes into his fucking shack, comes back out, and he goes, well, I can't very much detain you because I have the same fucking one in the shack. So have a good day, sir. And he walked away.
Oh my.
Yeah. That was my one attempt to cross the border. It didn't go so well.
I wonder how you manage the southern border.
It was just amazing. I was just like, you son of a bitch. Oh, I was so
my.
pissed. And my dad was angry. He was fit to be tied. Oh, the language that came out of my father from about Emerson to about Morris. Yeah, it's not repeatable on YouTube. But yeah, it was an experience, I tell you. But I've kept you for about an hour and 35 minutes.
It's been very enjoyable, especially the last 5-10 minutes.
Yes, I'm good at telling stories, I'll tell you. Well, we'll definitely have to have you on again.
Oh, yes.
And maybe I'll have to have you on the other channel and we can talk history, or you can tell maybe the history of British politics since you're into it. And yeah, maybe we can have you on the other channel, and we'll have you on here again for sure.
Okay.
And I'll let you plug anything you wish to plug, and then we'll get out of here.
Well, you can follow me on YouTube at Ryan Roger Athay. The link is in the down
Chat.
there.
And the description.
In the description, yes. Thank you for reminding me. You can also find me on social media, Twitter and Instagram mainly. I speak my mind on Twitter and retweet a lot of stuff, and I post pictures of drawings that I draw on a whiteboard on Instagram. Ryan Roger Athay. I'm sure you'll find me. And yeah, apart from that, nothing more to add.
All right, awesome. Glad to have you, and
glad to be here.
As always, this week I have Mr. CCTV returning on History with R&R, with as long as everything goes well, to discuss his deployments. It's a project that me and Mr. CCTV, are very passionate about, because he always wanted to write out his experiences. And he did start a series on YouTube, and it kind of fizzled out. So this was a year and a half of me twisting his arm, and then I finally got him on History with R&R, and we've been going through his deployments and things he experienced during his deployments. And
like an autobiography of
it's a very and Mr. CCTV has MS, so how long we have him is short. So we're trying to get out his story while we still can, and he can still remember it. He's always cursing himself because he doesn't remember an exact date or an exact town, and I'm like, you were there, they'll deal with it. Right? You can't be, you're pulling this from memory, my friend. But he's awesome, and it's always good to have him on. So we'll have him on there. I'm going to try to do another show, another one of my Command and Conquer with Canuck this week, probably tomorrow. And then we're also going to have Loki and I review Picard on Thursday at 2. And then karaoke this Saturday will be Mary's birthday celebration. So do tune in for that. And Mary says that she noticed you followed her on Instagram the other day.
Yeah.
Yes. She said I need to start.
And I think Twitter as well.
Yes. So it's been a pleasure, sir. And
thank you for having me.
We shall definitely have you on again. And a very special thank you to Zax for the recording he sent to me. Also, a
Love to talk to that guy.
very special thank you to Loki's Mornings of Mischief
Yep.
for stopping Ian, even though he's sicker than a dog. Thank you, brother. That
I
meant a
hope he
lot.
gets. I hope he gets better. I watched Mexican Iron Man take over his show for
Yes.
a little while, temporarily speaking.
Yes.
Going from Mexico to Texas and back every few days.
Yes. But we thank Loki. His time is valued, and we greatly appreciate that, sir. It was very nice of you to stop in. And with that, thank you. Take her easy, folks.
Bye, everyone.